The main story of this reintroduction to Ratchet & Clank is a mixture of the plots of the first installment from 2002 and the upcoming film coming out later this month on April 29th. We start off with meeting our protagonist, Ratchet, who is a simple mechanic who wants to join the Galactic Rangers, which is a police force which monitors the galaxy, and his future partner, Clank, who is a defect robot from his home planet, who is trying to get in contact with the Galactic Rangers to inform them of an evil plan to destroy multiple planets across the galaxy. Once Ratchet & Clank help save the home capital of the Galactic Rangers, they are then both inducted into their ranks, and it is really from that point on that Ratchet & Clank are given assignments that have the two travel from planet to planet fighting against the evil forces of Chairman Drek and help the Galactic Rangers save the galaxy. What I loved most about this much updated story for Ratchet & Clank was that the writers were capable of telling a very enjoyable story that was quite familiar with me, but was given a new take in which it felt very refreshing, despite the fact that I was able to see future plot points and twists before they actually happened. The story does a fantastic job handling the dynamic of its characters, both old and new, and the chemistry between the two main leads of Ratchet & Clank is just as rich as it was when I first witnessed it for the first time when I was 12 years old, and the two play off each other extremely well, with some very heartfelt and entertaining moments from beginning to end. Seeing old familiar characters like Captain Quark, Chairman Drek, and a few other characters that I will not spoil make their return was very enjoyable to see, but with Captain Quark and Chairman Drek in particular, they had such a presence in the first game that I'm happy to say that they steal every scene that they are in this game. However, it is the introduction of the new cast of characters and their interactions with our main protagonist that make this game's plot really stand out to me. There are a number of moments that require Ratchet & Clank to have to split up, and despite being apart from each other, there are moments with the other members of the Galactic Rangers were long-standing and memorable, and I can't wait to see how much this is expanded upon in the upcoming film. As you can tell, I very much enjoyed this new telling of Ratchet & Clank's story. However, there were a couple of things that I didn't quite enjoy as much. The fact that it is being told from the point of view of Captain Quark and his constant interrupting ruined a number of key moments for me, and the underutilization of certain characters made their presence in the plot seem rather useless. But these two issues did not stop me from enjoying my first playthrough as much as I did, and I'm now even more pumped up to see the upcoming film when it releases. The gameplay for Ratchet & Clank continues the familiar trend of being an action shooter platformer. However, there have been a number of changes and improvements that make this installment stand apart from the previous entries. For anyone who has played any of the previous installments, you will feel right at home here, as the control mechanics are completely identical to all the previous installments. However, they have seemed to have been sharpened a bit to provide a much smoother experience. For the majority of the game, you'll be playing as Ratchet as he makes his way across the landscape of multiple worlds. There are a number of sections that will also allow you to play as Clank, but they are mostly used for puzzle solving or evading enemy attacks as they chase you down specific sections. One of the biggest changes that Ratchet & Clank has is the introduction of RPG elements. As you take out enemies, Ratchet will gain experience that will allow him to level up and gain more health. The RPG elements also apply to your collection of weapons, in which, as you take down enemies, you will collect little crystal shards that can be used to upgrade your weapons and grant them modifiers that can make your weapon even more powerful. And I must say, your collection of weapons in this game is pretty huge. Fans of the series will also be able to purchase familiar unique weapons that all have specific uses and can aid you in just about any situation that you encounter throughout the game. The gameplay in Ratchet & Clank is not just limited to the standard platforming, as there are plenty of sections that will allow you to grind on railways like roller coasters. The hoverboard racing has also made its return, and it is just as frustrating as I'm sure many of you will remember it, and you also have a chance to take part in air and space combat that also has made its return, but has a much more prominent presence this time around, with the combat in these sections being much more intense than in previous installments. Boss fights are also present, however they are very few and in between throughout the game, and though they are indeed challenging, requiring the player to take advantage of Ratchet's maneuverability to avoid being hit, I personally wish that they were not so straightforward, as the same approach for each boss fight is nearly identical, reducing the challenge factor. For those of you who are fans of collectibles, there are a number of hidden golden bolts and collectible playing cards that grant you access to a number of cheats and perks that you can use once unlocked. After you have finished beating the 7 to 10 hour main campaign, you can actually replay this game in challenge mode, which gives you access to all of your previous weapons and game settings, but cranks up the difficulty and grants you access to a number of exclusive upgrades, giving Ratchet & Clank a solid level of replayability. Despite this Ratchet & Clank being a much more updated and polished version of the 2002 original game, the overall visual design is truly stunning, taking full advantage of the power of the PlayStation 4, bringing so much attention to detail to each unique world, making the act of exploration a serious positive. The sound quality really stands out, with both the sounds of your enemies and the distinct sounds of each of your diverse weapons, giving every shot and round an element of force as each weapon is used. The frame rate was also quite sharp, as it can easily handle showing multiple enemies at once without any loss of frame rate, and the level design for most of the worlds that you will visit may be identical to their 2002 counterparts, but there are certainly a new number of level designs for worlds that you have visited in the original game that give a number of these levels a certain form of elevation that I really haven't seen much in other platformers of this kind in games like the Jak and Daxter franchise and the Sly Cooper franchise, which to me have always been inferior to the Ratchet & Clank series in overall in terms of quality. The music also fits well with the atmosphere, with the score constantly changing to make the environment you are exploring or the intensity of the moment you are currently engaged in fit well with the pacing of the gameplay. If there were any main design flaws that I encountered throughout my playthrough, it was the fact there were a number of glitches that I encountered which did cause me to have to restart my game, and there were a number of times where the enemy AI was acting really strange to the point where enemies were flat out ignoring me even when I got really close to them. However, these errors are few and in between, and they really didn't hurt my overall experience from beginning to end. Well, if you haven't already figured out by now, I absolutely loved 2016's version of Ratchet & Clank from beginning to end, and I'm now even more pumped up to see this upcoming film when it comes out later this month. This is without question the most fun I've actually had playing a game in many years. It's due to the fact that I really haven't had a game that was this addicting and fun, that I enjoyed playing it for 10 or 12 straight hours, which is a new record for me if I can actually admit that. Now, I'll even go so far as to say that out of all the games I've purchased for PlayStation 4 to date, this is by far my favorite. Whether that'll hold until Uncharted 4 comes out next month is another question, but this is a must-own for anyone who actually appreciates the quality of the PlayStation 4 and what its initial future could bring us. And I find it really ironic that in order for me to really appreciate the power of the PlayStation 4, I have to go back and play a newer, updated version of the very first PlayStation 2 game I ever had a chance to play back when I was a kid. So, I don't know, maybe there's something special with PlayStation and Ratchet & Clank. I don't know, just find that very ironic. Now, if I had to give this game a rating, this is by far going to get the highest rating that I've given for a PlayStation 4 game to date, and I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. A must-own with a couple little hiccups with game design and a couple little gameplay flaws, but it is not nearly enough to really hinder your experience if you've loved the Ratchet & Clank franchise as much as I have. If you like this game review, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to try to meet my future game reviews. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.